Welcome in another week here with you, Blue Sky Live. Chase Parham, Neal, McCready, Clark Ford Studio this morning. Ole Miss wins its SEC opener in men's basketball, knocking off the Georgia Bulldogs by a dozen after trailing by 2 at halftime. We'll look at the Saturday slate inside the SEC, like what's to come a little bit this week. The NFL playoffs are set, and then we are back active in the final days as far as people getting into the portal. January 21st, February 1st, all those dates still very much in play when it comes to putting football rosters in place. Ole Miss wins the Gator Bowl in a rout, 52-20. We had the MPW Digital postgame show. Hope you check that out in podcast or video form. You can still find that and plenty more here coming up today. A show brought to you every day by Blue Sky locations throughout the state of Mississippi, up and down I-55, throughout North Mississippi, also filled up in Tupelo recently. Amory, obviously, a lot of locations there. You get lunch specials, you get side items, you get sweet daddies at most places, barbecue, pulled pork, and plenty more. And again, coming to you inside the Clark Ford Studio.
We are Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi. 662-257-1900 is the number. Call it. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes, and business hours is right to the bottom line. There's no hassle. There's no haggle. You get your quote, and the rest is up to you. You can shop that quote around. You can do what I've done, what I recommend that you do. Let's hop into a Clark Ford today, 662-257-1900. Guest join on the Campbell Clinic hotline. From fractures and sports injuries to complex spine and limb conditions, the pediatric orthopedic physicians at Campbell Clinic in Oxford are the only specialized pediatric orthopedic team in North Mississippi providing expert care for growing bodies. Visit CampbellClinicOxford.com to schedule an appointment or call 901-759-3111.
So as we were getting going, we were just talking about Jacksonville here for you spent, 4 days in the lovely city of
I got there
Jacksonville?
on Sunday late afternoon, and I left very early Friday morning.
So we left you as you were trying to avoid crime sprees and whatnot, getting back to the hotel room on that evening.
I think it was just one person.
So you think that guy was potentially on something as he was coming towards you?
No, he was on something.
Okay.
Yes.
There's no potentially to that.
So I crossed the street and got away.
Oh, you crossed the street?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I did.
Was he yelling at you specifically or just into the ether?
He was yelling at me specifically.
Okay. Did you sleep?
So I got to the room. It was about 1:30 Eastern, and I was wired, typically. I slept like an hour and a half, but you don't really sleep because you're so worried that you're going to sleep through the alarm. And then the alarm goes off so loud that it wakes you up, and you're like, why didn't I just trust the damn alarm? But I set like 2 alarms.
You didn't ask for the wake-up call. You just did the 2 alarms.
I don't trust the hotel people ever.
Well, I wouldn't rely on it primarily because I had that problem the night before the marathon. I was going, okay, how many alarms are you setting, and who or are you going to do the call thing? Like I had all that going through my head, and I'm like, I don't know what to do here. So,
but I got up on the first one, jumped in the shower real fast, threw my clothes on.
You're better off sleeping 90 minutes than not sleeping at all, or it's just time to kill, so may as well.
I mean, I had nothing else to do. Yeah, I needed to sleep. So I slept, got to the airport, and got back.
What level of raw hell did you feel when you got in your truck in Memphis to drive home?
I was tired. I wasn't sharp. I remember thinking this is probably not smart driving like this. But then I got back. I took a nap that afternoon. I felt better after that.
More tired and out of it then, or when you got off the bus in Tupelo when Siskey picked you up coming back from Alaska?
About the same.
Okay.
Probably more tired Friday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was tired.
Good luck to Adam in our stream, our Missouri fan. He says he's in Kansas City. Got more than a foot of snow. They're already iced in to start the week. Told to stay off the highways, off the roads there in the KC area.
Because they got the ice before the snow.
That's always the problem.
So the roads are impassable.
That's what happens. I mean, we are impassable with anything, but when we get that, especially, that's what kills this area when you're just completely done for like a week or week and a half. It's what we're worried about in this 7-10 day period that's coming up, where it does look like we're going to have some frigid temperatures and whatnot.
I think it's 80% chance of snow right now on Friday, is what they're saying.
Okay.
They being the weather people.
We have no snow at all this morning. It's just, I mean, I guess that might be like some dense snow stuff, but
I think we got a very light dusting overnight.
At most, yeah.
It got cold though last night.
Yeah, the real feel was like 14 when I woke up or something this
Something like
morning.
that. It was cold.
Yeah, I don't know why we're talking about this. It's fine.
I
Whatever.
don't know what. Just might as
It's
well.
January 6th. I mean, you're all with us for another year. Hope you had a great new year and a great full week. I guess technically everything started. I feel like everybody who's doing all their New Year's resolutions and everything, like this is the day they really point toward. It's like, last week was just a half week. So we're gonna go ahead and then now on the 6th, we're locked in. Now we're going. We're ready to get going. So
Yeah, I'm not a resolution person.
yeah, I know you're not.
I think you're setting yourself up for failure.
Well,
And then you fail, and then you go, well, okay, well now what do I? Instead of just kind of
one of the reasons why you set you up for failure is you make too many.
yeah,
I told Ben this yesterday was that or Saturday was you part of the problem when people have resolution issues is they have like 9 resolutions. That is impossible. You
Yeah.
can make one and make some changes and small whatever, but when you go multiple and go, well, I'm going to do this, no, you're not.
change is usually incremental.
I'm going to fix my diet. I'm going to exercise 6 days a week. I'm going to take a cold plunge. I'm going to get in the sun. I'm going to make sure I never miss a bite. No, you're not.
No, it's like watching the Celtics Thunder game yesterday. I mean, you see how the Celtics have grown. That didn't happen overnight. That was a process that took years. That included a lot of failure. Quote failure end quote. I mean, there was a lot of
course,
a lot of that. You see the growth that they've had, and I mean they didn't say, hey, all right, starting January 1st, we're going to become an elite basketball team. Here we go. No, it took years. So that was kind of my point of it. I think we can learn a lot from sports and growth and teams and stuff. With professionally, you can't do it at the college level anymore. It doesn't happen. But you can with stuff like that. That was small step growth to become a championship team.
So we can go football, we can go basketball. Let's go a little basketball to start. I got both written down on the sheet of paper over here. Ole Miss down by 2. Second half, kind of dominated. You talked about in your game story, defense, some toughness. Didn't win the way they have been winning, which is good for them. You called it in some ways the most important game of the year because of that, knocking off Georgia, a team that entered the day one of the top rebounding margin teams in the country.
Yep.
Had done a really good job with that. That's obviously Ole Miss's Achilles heel for most of the season. But when you look at this schedule and this necessity to get to 8, at least if you're going to make the NCAA tournament, it was one that felt like a complete must win. They go into the breakdown too. But as you said, if you look back in the future and this ended up meaning something, that was a pretty important second half.
Yeah, they I think only one home team lost. LSU lost to Vanderbilt at home.
That is correct. The board says, and I will take their word for it, that to date, SEC teams are 131-3 at home this season.
Oh, well, it's pretty significant. Yeah, they had to win. I asked Chris Beard about it, and he kind of pushed back on the question, which is perfectly fine. He's more than entitled to an opinion that's different than the conventional one. And sometimes two things can be true at once. Yeah, they had to win at home. They played a good Georgia team. Asa Newell's a terrific player. You can see why he's going to play in the NBA. He's young, but you can definitely see the NBA future. He'll be a pro, no question. Yeah, sure. If you go shoot 55% from the field and 48% from 3, you're probably going to win the game. You're probably not going to be able to do that game after game. I thought it was significant that Jalen Murray didn't play very much. Certainly, he didn't start. They didn't run that lineup of him and Padula out there together.
Mm-hmm.
I think Memphis exposed something a week earlier that you're just not big enough with that lineup. And if you can throw big guards, and the SEC is full of big guards, that you're going to have a hard time doing that. And so they went with more of Davin Barnes, which you take some shooting away, but you give yourself a better chance on the boards. You give yourself a probably a tougher team, a better defensive team, a longer team. Yeah, and so they built a lead in the second half. Georgia cut that lead down to 2,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of felt like at that moment you're like, okay, it's kind of interesting little stanza here because this feels like Georgia's about to take control of the game, and instead Ole Miss kind of dominated the last I don't know, 6-ish minutes.
They went 5 of 7 on their last 7 field goals. Georgia went 1 of 7 on their final 7.
Kind of felt like Ole Miss controlled the. I mean, it's cliche, but it looked like Ole Miss wanted it more. I don't know what that really means, but just Ole Miss got 50-50 balls. Ole Miss was able to close out on some shots, made Georgia take some uncomfortable shots, and then they got rebounds. That's the thing that when you watch Ole Miss, that's the thing that you kind of, over the course of the early part of the season, that you, quote, worry, end quote, about, is that they're not going to be a dominant team on the glass. It's about surviving the glass. And they did. They basically tied Georgia in rebounds. I think they out-rebounded Georgia by 1 or something like that. But that's the equation for them, is don't get killed on the glass, don't get killed on second chance points. And so they got a dub. And they go into this week. They've got a road trip to Arkansas. Then they come home and play LSU. And, I mean, I get what Chris is saying when he talks about, well, how does that work? If you say, hey, we're going to win at home and split on the road, which ones do you decide? I get what he's saying. I also get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Which is, you better defend home court.
You better beat Georgia and LSU at home if you've got NCAA tournament aspirations.
Right.
I mean, I get things aren't played on paper, but
yeah,
it's why I had outlined a part of their schedule that I found really interesting yesterday. It's on the board at rebelgrove.com. There's some conversation around that. You can head over and check it out if you want to. But their schedule is set up because this conference is really damn good. Really, really tough home games, and relative to the league, some winnable road games.
Right.
So what do you do in that 9-game stretch in the middle of their schedule is fascinating to me, because you could easily take a couple on the road, in theory, and then get your ass kicked at home a couple times because you play really good teams at home.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's a mess here. It's why on Tuesday night,
the top of the league's really good.
It's why on Tuesday night, Florida, as good as they are, they have huge aspirations as far as where they want to be seated. They got Tennessee at home in a game they really kind of need to win in a weird way.
Yeah.
I mean, they're fine. I don't mean that, but relative to what they would be hoping to do at that point after losing to Kentucky. Hell of a game on Saturday, by the way. Kentucky knocked off Florida 106-100 at Rupp on Saturday early. It was like an 10 o'clock game, something like that.
They tipped at 10 because Carson had a game at 11. I went to the first half of Carson's game and then went to the second half of the Ole Miss game.
Yeah, I mean, the stretch I'm talking about here is A&M at home, Missouri on the road. Then Ole Miss has 3 home games in a row. Texas, Auburn, and Kentucky. Obviously, Auburn and Kentucky are damn good. At LSU, at South Carolina, State at home, Vanderbilt away. You've got weird games there because of the home away deal of where that sets up. But no, I mean, Ken Palm, and again, way early. Way early. 20-11, 9-9. Gives them a 43% chance of beating Arkansas on Wednesday night.
Yeah, that's about right.
At this point.
Their matchup with Arkansas is going to be about, can they survive in the post? Arkansas is big. They've got bigs who can kind of crash the glass. They did not play well against Tennessee, but nobody does. I mean, Tennessee's legit. I mean, Tennessee is a national title contender. And that game was in Knoxville, so Arkansas will get a home game. So it's about just not getting killed. If they don't get killed on the glass, they got a chance in Fayetteville. Now, but you can't get killed on the glass. And Arkansas is big, and so they're going to force Ole Miss into some decisions because Ole Miss does not have a lot of size in the post at all.
Well, there was a lot of really good conversation in that thread on the board on Saturday with Sal Sipiens, and they're talking about how Ole Miss did well on the boards against Georgia, but it was guard oriented, and how sustainable is that or not, or what do you make about that as a strategy or a long-term thing versus a one-off in some ways? And I don't know, there's 17 of them left. I mean, you mentioned Jalen Murray. That's what happened to Jalen Murray last year. He was really good early, and then he was just small in these SEC backcourts, and he got bullied off the floor as the season went on.
Yeah, hunted.
Now maybe he can alter his game and give you some minutes, but the problem didn't change from one year to the next as far as what Jalen Murray can or cannot do.
No, from a stature standpoint, Ole Miss is small.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a lot of depth or a lot of size in the front court. When they play these talented front courts, staying out of foul trouble, just not giving up a lot of offensive rebounds and stuff like that. That's going to be the critical part for them.
From a size standpoint, Ole Miss is 330th in the country. There is a stat to that.
Yeah, they're small.
330.
They have some size on the wings, especially when they played Barnes with, Brakefield and Morrell, and they can put a big backcourt together.
I do think State might be the most underrated team in the league.
Oh,
no one is talking about them. They're really good.
I'll go one further. I think State's a title contender.
They're really good.
Yeah, I think State is a team that could make the Final Four.
As Neal said, Vanderbilt was the only road team that won over the course of the weekend. You had Ole Miss 63-51 over Georgia. You had Tennessee 76-52 over the Arkansas Razorbacks on Saturday at Thompson Bowling. They're not losing many times at all at Thompson Bowling.
No.
They're damn good. Auburn played with Missouri 84-68 on the Plains on Saturday. They were up 12 at the half and then coasted to victory there. Alabama walloped Oklahoma at Coleman Coliseum on Saturday.
Yep.
107-79. They were up 20 at the break.
They won't lose many in Tuscaloosa either.
And when they're shooting like that, they score 48 in the first half. It's over. That's not something you're going to keep up with Alabama. As we've mentioned, Kentucky had a lead by 10. Florida made a good run in the second half, but loses 106-100 to Kentucky at Rupp. The Wildcats now 12-2, 1-0 is said in the stream. I know it's a novel concept, but Kentucky just has a lot of really good basketball players. They've gotten away from some of the Cal stuff with Mark Pope, where they look like a basketball team right now.
No, they're very energized.
They don't look like the one-and-done collection of really good players who don't play together.
No, they were trailing Florida in the first half and then went on like a 16-0 run or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Never really looked back.
One hell of a second half in College Station. Texas and A&M were tied at 37 at the break. Texas A&M won by 20, 80-60 over the Longhorns.
Another team that people are not talking about.
Mm-hmm. Ranked 13th, 12-2, 1-0 in the SEC now. Mentioned Mississippi State. They just absolutely demolished South Carolina, 85-50 at Humphrey Coliseum on Saturday. They led 43-18 at halftime in that one. Murphy for State, 12-8. I saw Hubbard scored, I don't know, maybe 15, 18, something like that. You got Cam Matthews. They're good.
They're
really
very good.
And then Vanderbilt does go into Baton Rouge and win 80-72 over LSU.
Vandy's been playing pretty well lately.
They're 13-1.
Yeah, no, they've.
I mean, it's not like
they've played good basketball lately.
I mean, State's one loss is to Butler, 87-77. That's it. They've beaten everybody else.
Yeah.
They went to Memphis and won by 13.
Well, I talked to some people at Memphis before that game. I was like, hey, how'd State look? And they were awestruck.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was a lot of Memphis media apparently is really bad about this, and Memphis fans in general are really bad about being incredibly provincial. So everything is, if Memphis loses, it's because Memphis was horrible. It's never, the other teams don't really exist. The basketball people before that game were saying State looked like an elite team. Can beat you in a lot of ways, and very, very balanced, athletic, big, etc.
We will look at lines and whatnot tomorrow, but just a really fast look here. Tennessee's at Florida on Tuesday night. Again, we mentioned that a second ago. Kentucky is at Georgia on Tuesday. Auburn is at Texas on Tuesday. So Longhorns trying to avoid an 0-2 start inside the SEC there. Mississippi State's at Vanderbilt. So see if they can steal a road game against the Commodores there in Nashville. And then LSU and Missouri on Tuesday. That is your Tuesday slate. Teams left over. Wednesday, 3 games. Ole Miss and Arkansas are on ESPN2, by the way. 6 o'clock on Wednesday. Alabama, South Carolina is on SEC Network at 6 o'clock. And then your 8 o'clock nightcap is Texas A&M at Oklahoma on Wednesday night. So that is your quick little rundown. From there, just a second, I want to look real quick inside the SEC. Is anybody even outside the top 60? One team outside the top 60 as of this morning, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Carolina at 74 is the only team outside the top 60. And at 74, you're still inside that 75 threshold for quad. Because quad 1, it's 75 on the road, right?
Yeah, there's probably going to be some 7-11 team that goes to Nashville thinking, hey, if we just make a little noise here. And they might be right. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not doing that debate on January the 6th.
17 of those bad boys left.
I mean, we'll see.
Because it will come. I mean, if you're 7-11, to think you have any chance, it would depend on who you've beaten. I mean, like you're going to have some wins.
Yeah.
At that point, that 7 can't just be LSU, Vanderbilt, Georgia.
No, and it would depend on the rest of the country too. That would not be in a vacuum. You would need a very clean.
The bubble would very much matter.
You would need a clean bubble.
You would.
But it's a good league. There's a lot of good teams. I think there are 3 or 4 great teams. And there's a lot of good teams. And I'm not sure. This is where I struggle a little because I watch so much NBA that the college game looks different. I'm not sure how many bad teams there are. I don't maybe one. I mean, it's possible South Carolina's bad. I don't think LSU's bad. I've watched them. I don't think they're good, but I don't think they're bad. And then like teams like Oklahoma, Arkansas, those teams that I think are going to finish closer to the bottom of the league, I don't think those are bad teams. Those are capable teams, as we've seen in the Missouri is a very capable team.
You just need your bad teams to not be horrific, and they're not horrific.
Yeah, Missouri was not awful at Auburn. Just no one's winning there.
Again, they've got to win over Kansas. I mean, South Carolina is probably the worst team in the league, but they do have wins over Virginia Tech, Boston College, and Clemson.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there are scalps here.
It's very talented.
Now they have a couple dud losses too, because they're not very good. But nonetheless, that's where that thing sits. So, all right, we'll come back and move on in a second. First, you've had Wendy's Nugs dipped in sauce, but you have them covered in sauce. Wendy's new saucy nugs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo, honey barbecue, garlic parm, or if you're a real heat seeker, try spicy ghost pepper. Only on Wendy's signature spicy nugs. I dare you. 7 delicious ways to try the nugs you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some napkins, and prepare to nug like you've never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's got to be Wendy's. A participating U.S. Wendy's.
We're brought to you by Comer Heating and Air, Southern Air Conditioning and Heating. Different names, same great people, products, and services. If you live in Oxford, Batesville, Tupelo, or the surrounding area, call Comer 662-8011-777. If you live in Memphis, Hernando, South Haven, those areas, get in touch with our friends at Southern 662-429-4429. My post-game columns all year long were brought to you by Window Hero. From window cleaning to pressure washing, gutter cleaning, gutter guards, and everything in between, Window Hero has the experience, equipment, and expertise necessary to make your property look and feel brand new. If you're in North Mississippi, let Window Hero make your home or business's exterior look amazing. Their experts are fully bonded and insured. Window Hero provides specialized equipment, exclusive cleaning solutions, a satisfaction guarantee. They can clean up to the first 4 floors on buildings. Window Hero has locations in Oxford, Tupelo, Pontotoc, Holly Springs, New Albany, and more. They're dedicated to helping Oxford and all of North Mississippi with their windows, gutters, and everything in between. So call Window Hero 662-510-7077 to get an estimate or learn more at windowhero.com. My 10 weekend thoughts are up. They're brought to you by Andrew Seago, Seago Wealth Management. Are you retiring soon? How long should you wait to take Social Security? What accounts should you pull from first? Are you already retired? Should you consider Roth conversions? These are just some of the questions that can only be answered with a personalized retirement income plan. Andrew Seago with Seago Wealth Management specializes in helping folks just like you come up with their retirement game plan. So whether you meet at his office in Collierville or prefer Zoom from anywhere, schedule a free discovery meeting, see what they can do for you. It's rebelsretire.com. We're also brought to you by Grenada Home Center. They've got paints by Benjamin Moore, Pittsburgh Paints, Farrell Calhoun, flooring of any and all types, stone countertops, whether you're looking for granite, quartz, or anything else, window treatments from plantation shutters to whatever else suits your fancy. It's Grenada Home Center, 1301 Sunset Drive, Suite H in Grenada. So call them at 662-226-3127.
The Declaration of Independence Center for the Study of American Freedom is located on the Ole Miss campus and aims to explore and examine the fundamentals and founding principles of the United States of America. The center offers an academic minor in freedom studies and scholarship opportunities for Ole Miss students that bring along lots of networking potential. To learn more, you can contact Stephen Scoltetti at freedom@olemiss.edu or visit independence.olemiss.edu. Let's see where we want to go. we talked about or left a couple threads on the board about it. Pretty bad news a lot of bad news out of New Orleans, but Sonny Smart passing away over the weekend. Kirby Smart's father, he had a fall on New Year's Eve. He fractured his hip and then had severe complications from the hip fracture and passed away over the weekend. You spoke to him for the story back in the day, didn't you?
Yeah, a couple times. When Ole Miss was going through the charade of a coaching search after they'd already hired Hugh Freeze and were just waiting to play out the string. I didn't know that at the time. Kirby Smart was very interested in the Ole Miss job.
Mm-hmm.
And he was working for Saban at the time, so he couldn't talk publicly. So I talked to people around him, including his dad. And his dad was a super, super nice guy, at least to me. We had a couple of conversations. One very long one on the phone about Kirby, and he was a very proud father, as he should have been. And yeah, it was a sad weekend in New Orleans in general.
Thoughts also. I think I don't know the current status, but there was an Ole Miss student involved in that attack over the weekend. I know a critical condition at one point, but I'm not sure of an update there. So thoughts with wherever that stands. Here currently at the moment, you had all four conference champions fall over the course of the quarterfinals. You have 5, 6, 7, 8 seeds remaining now in the semis. That leads off on January 9th with Penn State, Notre Dame, and then on the 10th with Texas and Ohio State in those games. So they got 4 big brands.
They do have 4 big brands. That second game,
which one?
The Texas Ohio State game.
Oh yeah,
that should be that should interest me more than it does. So there's one on Thursday and then one on Friday. Is that right?
Yeah, one on the 9th, one on the 10th.
Okay.
7, 8, 9. Yeah, that's correct. I had to do the math in my head. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're not going to break down all the quarterfinal games, obviously. A couple things, though. I guess one, by the way, the FCS title game tonight, and it's probably going to be pretty entertaining. I've enjoyed the down. You give us brackets, you give us games. We like them. We watch them. We're Americans. That's what happens. North Dakota State, Montana State tonight. Montana State's 15-0. Obviously, North Dakota State is the juggernaut. They've won 9 titles since 2011, I believe.
Huh?
Something like that. They are 13-2. That game's at 6:00 tonight on ESPN. But we don't know to what extent, but obviously bad for the SEC to date. The Georgia game is the one that is just stinging if you're the league and you tried to have this superiority and you want all the buys and you're better than everybody else.
They lost their quarterback.
They had a backup quarterback and they just didn't play well. Now they dominated defensively. Notre Dame had like 150 total yards of offense.
Yeah.
But when you lose by double digits, no matter how you do it, you allowed the national media narrative that the SEC was overrated and Notre Dame dominated the game in every facet because that's what happened. I was laughing about it with Siski the other night. But if you're the SEC, that's the one that's probably stinging for you right now. Because if you get Georgia in instead, and then it's a little bit of a different. But I mean, the SEC is going to have a hard PR battle next year.
Yeah.
I mean, because
when you talk as much
that's
as
what I
the
mean. That's
SEC
what I'm saying.
talks.
When you want what you want, you want 3 or 4 automatic bids, and it's easy for everybody to look and go, "You got your ass kicked twice."
Yeah,
you got beat by double digits in both games you lost. More complicated than that, sure, but
yeah, that's
what happened.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fair argument. The league talks a lot, and so sometimes when you talk and you don't back it up, you get ridiculed. So prepare yourself.
I mean, a lot of the main columns coming out of the weekend was the SEC's dead, frankly. It's like, okay, hold up.
I mean, that's harsh, but look, the sport has changed dramatically in a very short period of time. I mean, you can go put together a team somewhere. It's become, I hate doing this. I get mad at myself. I'm literally, if I had a New Year's resolution, it was not to do what I'm about to do. The programs, almost without exception, they don't have the culture they used to have. They're not as tough as they used to be.
I don't think it's toughness. I think it's talent. I think that
That too.
we're talking about the championship level teams.
Yeah.
And now this is complicated because the other teams are getting losing kids too. It's not like the SEC is the only one in the transfer portal NIL boat. But from an SEC standpoint,
Ginger's right. No, you're exactly
What?
right. I've been guilty of it, saying, "Oh, the SEC is different." Now, the SEC is different from the ACC. The ACC was a subpar league. That's been,
the ACC sucks.
That's been proven. But what I'm guilty of it. No question. I'm guilty of overhyping multiple SEC teams. I'll own that all day long. I think it's more than a fair criticism. I'm guilty.
Well, okay. We underrated the Big Ten at the top. Penn State's better than we thought they were.
Yes. Ohio State's a very talented football team.
Oh, I mean, Ohio State is a Big Ten SEC power. I mean, like, come on. Like, they're always the one that's not even in the conversation.
Michigan's better than we gave them credit for being. They by the end, they whipped Alabama in that bowl game.
I mean, they are, but Ohio State has a mental block when it comes to Michigan. It's just a weird thing that doesn't
Michigan whipped Alabama in Orlando.
Oklahoma did too.
I know.
I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
So it's like whatever.
I mean, Alabama's not what Alabama was just 1 year ago.
But my point is, from a championship standpoint, for years, it's not like everything else. We have to change what our definition of good even is. It's nowhere. It's not the same. Good now is not good 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
It's probably true.
It doesn't look the same. It's worse. Good now relative to who they're playing is far worse. Because you don't build depth. You build zero depth. Because now players that Alabama and Georgia and everybody else was going to stockpile to win national titles, they're at Ole Miss. They're at South Carolina. They're at Oklahoma. Like, they're everywhere else. It's more spread out. Well, basic math tells me that brings more teams into the equation that can win these games and win championships. It's not just Ole Miss that's all of a sudden in better shape. It's every team in every power league that is in this opportunity base to have this ability right here. And Arizona State played really well against Texas because they have a couple really damn good players and they've got a hell of a culture. That's what they did. That's what they did.
Dillingham's terrific.
Yeah, Scatterbow's a hell of a coach. I mean, player, and there you go.
I don't know what they did on that 4th and 13. I'll never understand that defensive call, but sure.
But yeah, you've got, once you get in the tournament, you got to get in the tournament. Once you get in the tournament, it's teams that have capabilities in very similar ways to everybody else. So you're just playing games. That's what happened. I mean, when you start breaking down all the games in and of themselves, Texas is kind of who we thought they were. We never thought Texas was awesome.
No.
And they kind of are what they are.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're very fortunate to still be alive.
They're very, very fortunate. And again, Georgia played damn good defensively against a really good football team that knows exactly who they are at Notre Dame. I mean, they had an identity and they stayed to it, and it either was going to be good enough or not be good enough, and it was. With Carson Beck, Georgia probably wins the football game, obviously. I mean, Notre Dame in 11 seconds of game time scored 17 points. In 11 seconds. So I'm having a hard time taking that game and just ending the SEC as a conference and acting like that was some huge data point.
It's hard for me to talk because I didn't see it.
Georgia fumbled a ball inside the 10-yard line going into score in the second quarter. At the end of the first half, they kick a field goal with literally like 15 seconds left. Notre Dame does.
Okay.
Notre Dame picks off Georgia, scores right before the half. So we're talking 10 seconds, literally. And then they ran the opening kickoff back. So literally it was like 15 seconds and 17 points. Well, that's going to alter a football game. Now, you did it. You get credit for it. But I'm not going to systemically act like that changed the entire landscape of college football because a really good team had a 17-point swing in 11 seconds. That's kind of where I'm going there. But no, you have less depth. That brings more teams into it. College football, and I think it's because of conference alliances, because I mean, we see this here. I think for the most part, you still pull for your conference, whether you should or shouldn't. It's sort of that identity thing, even though we're not as regional as at any point outside of the SEC. I mean, it was an interesting data point on Arizona State, Texas, because I'm not sure college football likes the underdog. We don't really want the underdog to win. I think for the most part, we just want the powers to be powers.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, because you don't want them in the tournament because they don't deserve it. So then when they get in the tournament, you're kind of pissed off they're there. Go ahead and go away. Like, it's almost confirmation bias a little bit. We want the best teams. Arizona State and Boise aren't the best teams. So then if they get in and start winning the games, we have to start giving them our spots. So if you're a power conference fan, you understand what I'm saying in some ways?
In some ways, yeah. I think Arizona State proved they belonged. I think Clemson and SMU proved they didn't. My opinion. And we do the top 12 thing. I mean, I don't know how you I don't know how you do that. I mean, unless you just go straight computer. Well, no, I'd be fine with that. By the way, just SP plus or whatever, and put out a formula and go. This is how we're going to determine this, and this is what it's going to be, and we're going to take the top 12 teams and we're going to seed them 1 through 12 and play the tournament. Okay. But if someone, and I had someone make this argument, they said there weren't 12 good teams in college football. I'm like, you could be right. I don't know. I didn't.
The 13 seed going to the Elite Eight in basketball doesn't harm anybody. You can make the argument that the mid-major in football going to the championship game harms a lot of other teams.
Yes.
Moving forward.
Yes.
So thus, I don't think college football actually wants the underdog to win. Fans.
Probably so.
I mean, a lot of people wanted Texas to lose because you hate Texas, and Arizona State was kind of fun. But that was completely in the moment from that standpoint. And yeah, the SEC is still the best conference. That's not the argument. It's the best teams from other conferences can absolutely beat one of your best teams. I mean, it's not this just Goliath up here that's going to completely, because they're not Goliath. Their players are somewhere else.
Yeah.
You don't have the culture. You don't have the talent. Well, then suddenly it's trimmed out everywhere. It's
very watered down.
It's been in front of our face.
I kind of said it all year and got yelled at.
Yeah, good's different. It just is.
What we used to define as, oh, that's a really good team is not. They're really flawed. Really flawed teams. SEC didn't have a great team. There's no team in the SEC that you watched this year with they're awesome. There were a couple of teams that had games where they looked awesome.
Well, I guess you're making my point. There is no great team, period.
Right.
I think great teams are over. I mean, Ohio State is an incredibly talented team. At their best, they're damn good, and they're probably better than anybody in the country at their best. I think Ole Miss is a top 3 or 4 team at their best. But they can lose. They can have a day, an easy day, where they just don't quite get it done.
Yeah.
Now, the money's still going to rise to the top year over year over year. So the Big Ten and the SEC are going to continue to dominate as far as talent and ability. And look at the bracket. We're doing all this. But we went into the year going the SEC and the Big Ten are absolutely where this thing's at. They still have 3 of the 4 teams, and Notre Dame's the 4th. Right. Let's not act like the entire wheel was reinvented here.
No,
as we're getting into this Final Four of a bracket.
No,
There's a lot of conversation and thread about why the ACC is bad at basketball this year because they don't have any freaking money. That is why they're bad, because they don't have the money compared to the Big Ten and the SEC and even the Big 12. When it comes to money and putting programs and different things together from a basketball standpoint. That's why. So, I mean, those things aren't going to change. It's why every sport has continued to be run by the 1 or 2 conferences that actually put money and resources into it over time. I get we had a weird weekend, but I think we just had a weird weekend.
This past weekend?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
If Georgia has a starting quarterback, we're not having this conversation as much. Because it literally would be Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, and Penn State.
That's a good point.
And we go, okay, I mean, awesome.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, we're literally talking about Notre Dame beating Georgia. Because Ohio State beating Tennessee was not an upset. Ohio State's a damn good football team.
Yes.
We're seeing that home field advantages matter probably in the playoffs even more in the regular season in a lot of ways. Small sample size, we'll see over time. But I don't think we're going to see quarterfinal home games, by the way. I read some quotes over the weekend where it seemed like that was not even in the cards.
The bowls are too powerful.
They also don't want students gone, and these schools are even fighting it because they have to keep all their staff through the Christmas break.
Right.
And they go, that's just not, it doesn't make sense for them. So there's a lot of reasons why they kind of go, nah, just go ahead and
a lot of those
do it.
A lot of those stadiums aren't really made for that. They're not made for December and January football games.
Mm-hmm.
It's cold. They're not equipped for that.
Our boy Robbie Ashford headed to Wake Forest, I see.
I mean, I'm gonna really try hard not to just give my true thoughts on the whole college football system.
Ohio State is favored by 6 over Texas, and Notre Dame is favored by 2 against Penn State coming up here in the semis.
Yeah, I don't even know what I think.
I'm more interested in Notre Dame Penn State than I am Texas Ohio State.
I think I am too.
Which makes no sense, but on its face. Yeah. I mean, I can explain why, but
I'm not wildly interested in either game. I mean, that's going to be the thing that I think is probably going to be. I know I have to watch because of what I do for a living, but neither one of those games make me go, "Oh yeah, I'm in."
What would have?
I don't know. I watch these teams. I don't think anybody's very good. It's not particularly The Arizona State Texas game was entertaining. I'm not sure I saw another game over the course of the weekend that was particularly entertaining. The holiday weekend, when I say that, I mean January 1st might as well have been a Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I didn't watch a lot of those games and went, oh, that was fascinating. I mean, the Ole Miss Duke game was not scintillating to watch.
No.
I mean, it just wasn't.
Well, it's like and again, I probably would have been annoyed had I been watching, but like we got off topic during the watch along because it was 3 hours of Duke and Ole Miss, and we just started talking about a couple of different things because it was what it was. There's only so much you can say. Because you hit a good nail on the head. It's an entertainment product. That's what it is. So it needs to be entertaining. I mean, it is an entertainment product.
The Rose Bowl was not entertaining. It got out of hand almost immediately. Like, frankly, you watched it and went, how the hell did Oregon beat this team earlier in the year? And the answer was, well, home field and stuff.
Just different. It's college kids. You don't know from one day to the next. That is what makes one of the things that makes college football really interesting, is that there is no continuity where it's a machine that's going to play the same way every week.
Right.
You have no idea.
Right.
We got crap going on. I mean, focus is a real thing.
Not just with players.
No, well, good point. I mean, it's everything when it comes to that.
Yeah, I mean, now the kids have a lot of money. It's not just an envelope full of cash somewhere.
PlayStation.
They've got real money.
PlayStation swung kids back in the day.
Yeah.
PlayStations.
They have
sneakers.
They have real money.
Pair of sneakers swung kids.
And with real money comes real distractions. I'm not saying they shouldn't get paid. Whatever. You get what you get. I'm a capitalist. Get what you get your bag. But let's not pretend that it's not changing the sport.
They came out with the top 100 most watched U.S. broadcasts on television of 2024. NFL had a bad year because last year they had 94 of the top 100. They only had 73 of the top 100, but that's because it was an election year and there's like 10 political programs that factored into that. If you took those out, then they would have somewhere around 85 to 86, and it would be some of the same. The only things that even registered in the top 100 watched things of the year, you had the NFL with, again, 73. You had college football with 4 or 5, 4, I believe.
Okay.
For college football, all playoff games, by the way.
Yep.
You had the Thanksgiving Day Parade, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade that made it.
Yep.
You had one game of the World Series that made it. So one of the World Series was at 84.
Okay.
On this thing. Highest rated college game, by the way, was at 24. So there was still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15 SEC games.
Was that the title game?
I'm assuming. I do not know that. Academy Awards made it at 74 for the Oscars.
Is that what was last night? That was the Golden Globes, right?
Golden Globes were last night. Yes, that is correct. That is true. The Grammys made it at 96, so they were there. You had one women's college basketball game that made it. So you had the Iowa, Caitlin Clark's
South
last
Carolina.
game. Yes, that was number 76.
Okay.
And this political programming took up spots 2, 7, 8, 16, 29, 30, 22, 39, 57, 64, 65, 75, 78, 85, 86.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl lead out made it at number 83. So just whatever the hell it was that came on after the Super Bowl was still 83.
People's TVs were on.
because of that. And then the Summer Olympics also occupied some spots. So
Oh,
election year and Summer Olympics are what halted the NFL's dominance this season. So that's it.
One Major League Baseball game, no
From a
NHL.
pro sports standpoint, NFL had 73 and World Series had one, and baseball had
It's
one.
incredible.
No hockey, no NBA, no men's college basketball. Women's college basketball had the one because of Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
That was it. That's your top 100 list.
How about that?
I'm amazed the World Series got one. I'm proud of them. I think had you said the over-under is half, I would have said under.
And that was Dodgers Yankees. So huge brands. The two biggest brands.
Yeah.
In baseball.
Yeah, well, I mean, we didn't do that a year ago with Diamondbacks Rangers.
No.
Probably took you a minute to remember who was in the World Series a year ago.
If you hadn't told me, I would have had to really think about it.
Yeah.
I think I would have gotten it, but I would have had to really think about it.
Yeah. So, all right, we'll come back, talk a little more in a second. First, Citizens Bank, you're not just an account number. You're a valued member of the community, and now if you find yourself in the market for a mortgage, another reason to give them a try. Whit Wilson, who many of you know in the mortgage space, now at the Citizens Bank, ready to help you with your real estate goals. Stop by and visit 902 Sisk Avenue, Suite E. Discuss your options with any of their experienced bankers who value your unique financial journey. Also, while you're in there, check out the School Spirit debit cards. They donate an amount per every transaction to the local school of your choice, whether it's Oxford, Lafayette, or Regents. That's the Citizens Bank, PHILA.com.
Arnett's Fine Jeweler is a fourth generation jeweler. I know Christmas is over, Valentine's Day right around the corner. They always can do things with jewelry repair as well. It's getting closer to wedding season, diamond engagement rings, wedding bands, stackable diamonds, so much more. It's all there at Arnett's. They want to be your jeweler. We're also brought to you by Argent Wealth. They're based in Ridgeland, Mississippi. They've got clients in more than 20 states. Argent provides detailed, specialized investment management, financial planning, retirement planning for individuals and businesses, and much more. At Argent, investing is treated like a commodity. Decisions are made using objective information and research, not emotions. So regardless of your level of wealth, Argent will sit down with you, listen to your goals, study your expenses, and put forth a comprehensive, detailed financial and retirement plan built just for you. It's myargentwealth.com. We're also brought to you by John Edwards, Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. If you're trying to plan a trip this year, this summer maybe, that creates a lifetime of unique memories, get in touch with John. Give him some parameters, give him a budget, let him give you some options. And know this, you don't have to live in or near Memphis to take advantage of his services. 901-494-3387 or send him an email, jedwards@regencytravel.net. Get the beautiful, healthy smile you deserve at Corinth Dental. Dr. Bubba McQueen, Dr. Jenny Beth Hendrick are devoted to restoring and enhancing the natural beauty of your smile using conservative, state-of-the-art procedures that will result in a beautiful, long-lasting smile. From routine checkups to advanced treatment, including implants and Invisalign, Corinth Dental is here to help you achieve your smile goals. Schedule your appointment today. Take the first step toward a better version of yourself. It's corinthdental.com.
Podcast is brought to you by the Men's Clinic. That's in Madison and Brandon. You can make an appointment at themanthing.com. Their goal, as it has been, is to make sure you're the best version of yourself. They want their patients to remain as healthy and as strong as possible throughout the aging process. They do that by optimizing testosterone, improving sleep, reducing inflammation, treating insulin resistance, and facilitating a healthy gut microbiome. I need to talk to them today to get my next months put away for what we're doing and working on with myself. So again, they are in Madison or Brandon. If they're in Madison, that's 601-607-7869. First appointment there. After that, they can kind of treat you from anywhere. Again, that's themanthing.com. I saw a story in The Athletic this morning. It's worth the read. Just, I mean, sports-wise, the difference in the levels as we talk about all the time, but then also, I mean, it has a greater probably macro view from a Mississippi IHL, all the schools that are here and the way you're trying to fund all these things. But there's a story on Mississippi Valley State and their inability in men's basketball. They're the worst team in the country. They travel like hell, though, because the men's basketball buy games fund the entire athletic department for the university. Hardly any of the money even goes back into the basketball program, but it just funds everything. Their coach is also their interim AD. They don't have a trainer. They don't have an SID. They don't have a Twitter account that follows their game in any capacity whatsoever. They have not won a non-conference road game in 18 years.
Oh,
Actually, I take that back. They have not won a non-conference game against a D1 opponent in 18 years.
Okay.
They have lost their last 190. They made $955,000 last year just simply playing bye games.
they should schedule the Washington Generals.
They should. But it was discussing what their travel looks like. I mean, you get to a point where you question whether it's safe for them to be doing what they're doing because of the way they're busing and they're playing teams with monstrous revenues and resources. They have no healthy food at all. They're basically just running through Burger Kings and In-N-Outs for every meal on the way, just trying to get by. They did an embed with them for 3 days. The reporter from The Athletic spent 3 days with Mississippi Valley State, and it's worth the read just simply to see how that half lives and what this looks like.
Sounds depressing.
It was tough. I mean, you've got kids that they're living out their Division I goal, if you will, but it's in this instance, in this circumstance, where they go and you have zero chance of winning a basketball game.
Yeah.
They have only 2 home games the entire non-conference schedule, and neither one are against D1 teams.
Yeah, it's sad.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's a really, really, really hard read.
I'm a little surprised that all those programs keep going.
They were in an In-N-Out in Salt Lake. They were playing BYU or Provo, I guess, and they were asking people in the In-N-Out to come to the game to sit in their section because they never have anybody even like cheering for them or like on their side. Their bus driver is always the only person that's with them the entire time. So they were trying to hand out free tickets that the visiting team got.
Did they bus to Salt Lake City?
No, they flew.
Oh.
But
my God. Okay.
But they have had some crazy travel from where they've bussed or vice versa. And even the Salt Lake thing, they went up the day before, but they left really early in the morning for the earliest flight possible out of Memphis. They had to get to Salt Lake. However they did that, got over to Provo, and practiced for 2 hours to try to get acclimated to the altitude that night, which you're good luck.
No.
And then you get up next morning and play and then immediately get back. I mean, it's just, it's hell on your body. And the next day it's like, hey, let's drive to Austin and play Texas. And then we're going to drive to Manhattan from there and play Kansas State. It's like,
yeah, you're just getting your brains bashed in for money that you're not getting. Probably not a lot of NIL.
deals. Nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I didn't write it down. I wrote several notes down, but it wasn't one of them. I think the head coach and then who's also the interim AD is like $90,000, and he's the highest paid person in the athletic department or something.
Oh, wow.
It's actually worse than JUCO. JUCO has more resources than that. It's worse than JUCO.
I feel sorry for the kids' families.
Yeah. Well, you see it in a lot of mid-majors and period. I was talking to a friend of mine that was in town that I went to high school with a couple weeks ago, and they're Indiana State fans, the Sycamores, and had a really good baseball team last year. They were damn good. Probably should have hosted a regional, kind of got screwed. And they were talking about how between games and their regionals, the money they had from a budget standpoint, all they had was Uncrustables. Their entire meal between games was Uncrustables, whereas let's say they're in Oxford for the Oxford Regional. Ole Miss has got catered meals all over the place and all the food and whatever. And Indiana State literally took boxes of Uncrustables and just passed them out to them on the bus between games. There's just no money.
Yeah, teams come here and a lot of times like they'll contract with LBs or something, and I mean the spreads they get are it's incredible.
Yeah, and instead they were doing that, and then because of NIL, I think they lost their entire starting lineup. I think ISU either had drafted or NIL'd out. Portaled out their entire lineup from last year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sorry. I saw Grind. I'm killing the morning. It's just what I read this morning, and I thought it was interesting. That's all. I was going through my stuff. And
Yep.
So, on to the NFL. We have couldn't get greater in your discrepancies there. Got an NFL playoff picture set now for the NFL season. Lions beat the absolute hell out of the Vikings last night after the Vikings wasted some early opportunities to get back in that game. Goff threw some interceptions, but it was all for naught. As I think 31-9 was the final score of that game, if I have that
People
correct.
tried to hype that as that was going to be the best NFL game of the year.
Well, to their credit, everybody kept going statistically, knowing that it's probably a lie. So we just keep pounding the 14-win seasons and just going with that.
Yeah.
At this point, but yeah, Lions 31-9. My Saints kept trying to beat the Bucs yesterday, which
I saw that.
Was dumb on multiple levels. Number one, lose. I mean, you're getting a crap draft pick because you won too many games. And the AFC is so bad that you can't get a really high draft pick anyway because that league is dog crap at the bottom because the top's so good. They just beat the hell out of the other bad teams. But then also you were trying to give Atlanta the division. It was like, okay, I would much rather Tampa win the division if I got to have one of these two damn teams in the playoffs. So just lose, let Baker get his division title, and let's all move on with our day. Because Atlanta was cheering every Saints touchdown, obviously, in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And it was like, stop. But they blew the lead. Don't worry. We come on. We're not going to win games. Lions in the NFC, they got the 1 seed. They're really banged up. That bye is huge for Detroit. A lot of guys out for the season. They are what they are.
Right.
But that's where they are sitting. And then you've got Rams-Vikings in the 4-5 game. Now, remember, the NFL reseeds, so the Lions play the worst remaining team in the next round. It's not a set bracket like other sports.
Right.
But Rams-Vikings in a first-round game at LA, that's not a win for the Vikings. That you go 14-3 and you got to go deal with Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford and a Rams team that's really gutty. Pretty good.
It's
tough.
An interesting game.
It's an interesting game. No, it's a good game.
Sure.
I like that. I know I kind of pull for the Rams because of Dylan, but that's a good game in general.
Okay.
I like that game. Bucks Commanders is an interesting game in round 1. You got Baker, you got Jaden in his first playoff game, year 1.
But neither one of those teams strikes me as a team that could make the Super Bowl.
No, I don't think so either.
So, yeah.
And then Eagles Packers in Philadelphia.
It's certainly that's of those three, that's the one that interests me the most.
My most watchable is Rams-Vikings, but it's more of, are the Vikings simply the new Kirk Cousins Vikings where they get to the playoff and look really good and then just lose, and you don't ever feel like they really can go do it, even though they have some really good regular seasons. I know the miracle play against the Saints and all outside of that. Minnesota is favored by 2 in LA on an opening line there.
Okay.
Tampa Bay favored by 3.5 at home against Washington.
Okay.
In that game. And then Philadelphia at home favored by 5.5 against the Packers. And I do expect the Eagles to win that game.
Yeah, I would think so.
So if you're the Lions, you would automatically play the Packers if they win. And then outside of that, the only team that you absolutely cannot play is the Buccaneers at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, it's a little complicated because they don't the reseed thing. The Chiefs, they have the 1 seed. They played nobody, which killed the Bengals and the Dolphins' hopes of making the playoffs yesterday, which the Dolphins lost to the Jets anyway. So, bye. Peace.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I don't know that we see it a ton in the NFL. Maybe it's where media is going in general, so it just is what it is. There's not, and I understand how hyperbolic of a statement I'm about to make, okay?
Okay.
That's fine. We can call it whatever you want to call it. There's not a college beat writer who is more of a homer than Joe Shad is for the Miami Dolphins. It doesn't exist.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my God.
That's a strong statement.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I still follow him from when he covered college football, and I've just never unfollowed him.
Does he just not know how to be objective? Or has he become a fan?
It's fan because he woke up yesterday morning. And again, people don't care. It's just me talking to you for a minute. But he woke up yesterday morning. Now, I hate it for Jeff Duncan. Like, I hate Jeff Duncan because of this. I can't stand him. Shad woke up yesterday morning, and his first tweet was, "We're all Chiefs today," and put a Chiefs logo on his Twitter account for the day.
Yeah, you can't do that.
It's like,
who's he working for, the Palm Beach Post or something?
Yeah.
You can't do that. That should be a fireable offense.
That was his morning. But then he did the emotional thing. He did it all day trying to get them in the playoffs. They didn't get in, obviously, because I think Denver won 31-0.
Yeah, once Denver won, they were out.
And then he came back and his tweet was, "Well, they were never good enough to get in anyway." It's like, hold on.
Well, then why'd you spend all day on it?
Yeah, why'd it matter then? Like, anyway, but that bugged me yesterday. Chiefs are in. They're the 1 seed. If the Broncos beat the Bills, they would face Denver for sure because Denver is the 7 seed. So you get Bills, Broncos, Josh Allen, Bo Nix in a first-round playoff game. Sean Payton has done one phenomenal job with
Imagine
Denver.
that.
Yeah.
I know.
I've seen it. Well, it's like I had somebody ask me yesterday, why is Bo Nix so good? Well, got Sean.
Well,
He's good. He's good.
He's very good. He's very good at identifying talent, developing talent.
I mean, we had that conversation over the course of the postgame show on Saturday night. Is there a world where Jackson Dart is kind of like Bo Nix? And it's like, you'd hope so, because Bo Nix is going to be a very capable, damn good quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, Bo's a big kid. He's very athletic. I mean, he's the indictment of Brian Harsin and them. I mean, more than God, you walked in and you had an NFL quarterback.
You did.
And you butchered it. That's on you. Because sometimes coaches get to a place like in the NFL and they don't have a quarterback, and it just doesn't. You can't win without one.
Right. Which is trickled down to the college game and is why they're paying crazy NIL prices for quarterbacks, because you either have one or you don't.
Yeah, and there are people that are really trying to fight back on, like, so you guys are reporting what the agents say. Well, there's a way around that, don't you? Come out on the record and say, no, we gave him this. Here's the contract. You want that bugged me over the weekend. I got some people that were pushing back on
prices.
Yeah, they were like, Darian Mensah's not getting that at Duke. That's agent talk. Okay, then what's he getting? Say it on the record. What's he getting? Half that? Okay, say it on the record.
No.
I don't want to do that. Well, the agent talked. So what do you want anybody to do? And by the way, people at Tulane agreed with that number. So it's not even a pet peeve. It's just, okay, if you want transparency, you can provide it.
There's still a segment that is very uncomfortable, so they're just lying about it. They're uncomfortable with where the prices are going, so we're just going to put our head in the sand and ignore them and hope it goes away.
Yeah.
But that's where it is.
I'm not referring to Ole Miss, by the way, before anybody thinks this is about Ole Miss. But I'm sure Ole Miss is as guilty of it as anyone else, no more or no less. It's all about money and numbers, and yet nobody wants to talk about the numbers. And then when the numbers get out there and the numbers are inflated, they'll tell you, well, those numbers are inflated, but they won't tell you, okay, but what are the real numbers then? I mean, tell me. It's not my money.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a way around that. And then they're like, well, we can't do that. Why? Well, it's private. Okay, well, the agents are putting the numbers out.
That was a good point in the stream, by the way, by the Chiefs completely just throwing the game yesterday. They kept Joe Burrow out of the playoffs. You'd much rather Bo Nix be in the playoffs than Joe Burrow.
Oh, yeah. The way the Bengals played down the stretch, you didn't probably want to play them. I mean, they I think, won 5 of their last 6 games. The Bengals look back, and they blew some games early in the season that if they just win 1 of them or 2 of them, they're in the playoffs. And
they're just so bad defensively because Burrow might have been the best player in the league.
He put up numbers that the only numbers in NFL history that parallel those are MVP numbers. Yeah.
I mean, when you step back and just look at quarterbacks, I mean, you had a trio of historic type deals with Allen, Lamar, and Burrow.
Yeah.
On what this looks like.
Yeah.
Bills Broncos. The Buffalo Bills are favored by 9 there in Orchard Park against the Broncos. It's the 2-7 game. We get a Ravens Steelers first round game. Those are always fun.
Yeah.
There with those 2 teams. Baltimore a 9.5 point favorite over Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh has not played well down the stretch.
No. The quarterback inefficiency is starting to really pop them.
Yeah. So one team has Lamar Jackson, one team has Russell Wilson.
I know where I'm going.
Even though that's a huge number for a playoff game.
And then the Houston Texans are hosting the LA Chargers in a playoff game. Harbaugh gets the Chargers in as the 5 seed in year 1.
Yeah.
Texans, by far the weakest of the division winners. They are a 3-point underdog at home against the LA Chargers.
Harbaugh did a hell of a job.
He did.
It's almost like he's
a damn good coach.
He's a really good coach. He's a weird dude, but that doesn't change the fact that he's a hell of a good football coach.
Scanning the list, I think Laramie is Ole Miss's 1 Pro Bowler. if there's another one. I did not see it. I think Laramie is the one there. He's starting for the AFC. What, they're not playing a game though, right? It's just the Pro Bowl games
I think
thing.
they just do some flag football stuff.
Okay.
I'm cool with that.
Oh, I am too. It's fine.
You know,
I don't need the game. Don't want the game.
I don't want to see people get hurt.
And you are playing football. Someone can get hurt.
Yeah.
Even though you don't, you're creating a bad product because you don't want to hurt somebody and you don't care, and someone could still get hurt. So let's just not.
Yeah, it's the NBA All-Star game where people get worked up about it. I'm like, oh, stop it. Nobody. All these guys know each other. They're trying to protect each other. Nobody's going to intentionally. There's only so much defense you can play in an All-Star game.
It's an exhibition game.
I mean, in the Major League Baseball, you don't want somebody trying to break up a double play in the All-Star game.
It ends up being the most real just because what else do you do?
Because it's baseball.
Yeah, I mean, I have to throw it and hit it, so it is what it is.
But I don't want you crashing into the wall trying to make a play. Just let the ball bounce off the wall and throw it back in. It's going to be okay. And the people that get all worked up about that, you're too serious.
Yeah. So, all right, we'll come back with the final segment in a second. First, AnySpark, the fastest, most reliable fiber internet option available. Whether you're streaming the Rebels or connecting with family and friends, they offer both residential and business packages with speeds up to 2 gigabits. To learn more, register for service. You can go to AnySpark.com. That's AnySpark. Get connected. Stay local.
Are you a displaced corporate executive wanting to put your career in your own hands? Are you an experienced entrepreneur looking to diversify? Either way, Andy Ludicky can help. He's a longtime Rivals board member, a diehard college football fan, franchise veteran. He owns multiple franchises and businesses. He uses his expertise to help others find their American dream through a very thorough and free consultation process. So call Andy. Put your life and your career back in your own hands. It's 100% free. You've got nothing to lose. myperfectfranchise.net or Andy at myperfectfranchise.net. We're brought to you by our friends at Parish Brewing Company, located in the heart of Cajun country in Broussard, Louisiana. Their simple goal is to make awesome craft brewed beer, and they do it. They've got Dr. Juice. It's the go-to IPA, a highly crushable juice bomb. They also have Ghost in the Machine, probably my favorite beer. It's a double IPA brewed with obscene quantities of hand-selected Citra hops from their favorite farm in Yakima Valley, Washington. All of that, if you see wherever you get your beer, if you see Parish, give it a shot. You will not regret it. We're also brought to you by Art Hayes, Sotheby's International Realty. If you're thinking of making a move, put the power of Sotheby's to work for you. As a licensed agent with Sotheby's and a supporter of all things Ole Miss, Art Hayes can help you buy or sell in your hometown or anywhere in the world at no charge to you. Seriously. So call and ask him how. 612-805-5929 or email art@arthur.hayes@lakesmn.com. We'll have another edition of Neal's Picks on Thursday. They're presented by Kaiser Flooring. Locations in Oxford and Batesville, Kaiser Flooring provides outstanding quality flooring products and installation services to residential and commercial properties. Kaiser carries the best in hardwood, laminate, vinyl, and tile flooring, as well as carpeting. Their goal is to offer amazing and durable flooring products and superior services to make your life easier. Kaiser installs your flooring quickly, delivers the best flooring experience possible. At Kaiser, they believe that establishing relationships with their customers is critical, so their staff is always ready to ensure that they complete your flooring project to your satisfaction. It's kaiserflooring.com. Call them in Oxford at 662-830-3194 or in Batesville at 662-371-1912.
Podcast is brought to you by G&M Pharmacy, 662-236-2222. They deliver locally in the Oxford area, and they offer medicine for your prescription same day each month and take care of you. One trip to the pharmacy, one delivery. You have everything you need when you need it with G&M. So whether it is Oxford or Holly Springs, let them help you out and become your community pharmacy of choice. That's 662-236-2222. I was looking for an NFL draft order. The Tennessee Titans have the first pick. Did I say that right?
Is that right? I don't know. I haven't looked this morning.
Patriots have fired Jared Mayo after one season.
Yeah.
Jags fired Doug Peterson this morning.
And let's be clear. Everybody's doing the Jared Mayo resentment thing. They're doing it because they know who they're hiring. They're beating the rush and hiring Mike Vrabel. Well, you can't hire a head coach unless the head coach is open, so that's why they fired Mayo. Does it suck for Jared Mayo? Of course. A lot. But
do what you got to do.
They wanted to hire Mike Vrabel, and they're not alone, and so they're going to beat the rush and do it before anybody else does. That's things that frustrate you about our field. Mm-hmm. This is one of those things that frustrates me about my field, this righteous indignation. It's, oh, for God's sake. That's why they're doing it. I'm not saying it's the right thing. We'll find out, right? Jared Mayo might get another opportunity someplace and go win 6 Super Bowls. But they're doing it to hire Mike Vrabel.
They won yesterday, too. Just screwed their pick even more. I mean, I get they were playing Buffalo, who hadn't played nobody either, but still. Titans do get the first pick. I don't know. I don't believe in either quarterback.
No.
I mean, you can take Travis Hunter, but you really doing that? Like, I don't know. It's not a year.
I think you're trying to trade out of the pick.
But it's not the year where you get a ton of picks back because nobody goes, yeah, we have to have this dude.
Right.
Cleveland at 2, Giants at 3, Patriots at 4, speaking of, Jags at 5, Raiders at 6, Jets at 7, Panthers at 8, Saints at 9, Bears at 10, Niners at 11, Cowboys at 12, Dolphins 13, Colts 14, Falcons 15, Cardinals 16, Bengals 17, and Seahawks 18.
Okay.
That's what we know as of now. Of note in that, of the first 7 picks, only one NFC team. AFC has 6 of the 7 picks.
Yeah, they had some bad teams.
And they had some really good teams.
Yeah, some really good teams.
Which is what create that problem.
It's like the teams that had really good quarterbacks beat the hell out of teams that didn't.
It's pretty much
it's kind of the delineation.
It's kind of, that's how that happened. You know what's going well for your team? When on ESPN.com this morning, one of the main headlines is the owner of the Jets with the quote, "My teenage son has no role with the organization." That's a real news story that's on the front of ESPN about the Jets and Woody Johnson this morning. Train wreck.
Yeah, absolute.
Complete train wreck.
Well, look, I like Aaron Rodgers because most of the media don't. So that's all the incentive I need to like someone. But you put your franchise in the hands of a 40-year-old quarterback. I mean, what'd you expect? And you gave him power.
Oh, yeah.
And then he got hurt. And then he came back. And I've been watching that documentary on Netflix. He's an interesting guy. He's very smart. But he's fighting Father Time. And Father Time's just undefeated. He just doesn't lose. You invested in a 40-year-old quarterback. And then after he tore his Achilles, you doubled down. Come on. And I have a tremendous admiration for how hard he worked to get back on the field. People make fun of some of the, stuff that he did or whatever. I find it to be interesting that he's, frankly, I'm drawn to guys that are not football robots.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to have a personality. It's one of my media things is that we get mad that people won't talk to us. We get mad that people give us cliche answers. And then when they say something, we're like, oh, you can't say that. Well, which is it?
We want you to talk, but we want you to say exactly what I want you to say.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers is interesting to me. It's like the whole vaccination thing. Why are we unwilling to admit that maybe he was right? I have a soft spot for Kyrie Irving for that reason. Kyrie Irving did not need the vaccination. Why is that so hard for us to say out loud? I say it, what do people in our field say about me? Oh, he's a right-wing lunatic. No, he just didn't need it. He was right. Kyrie Irving's life was never in danger with COVID, ever. At no point, ever. Neither was Aaron Rodgers. They were right. Why is that so hard for people in our field? Can you explain it to me like I'm 5? Kyrie Irving gets this reputation of he was a bad teammate because he didn't take a vaccine that he did not need? I disagree completely. He's not allowed to make an independent decision for his body when he makes a tremendous living off of his body? Aaron Rodgers makes a lot of money because of his physical tools. He protected his body. He made a decision, an autonomous decision, an independent decision based on what was best for him. He didn't crusade that other people not do it. He just chose not to do it. And he gets labeled by people in our field. I don't understand it. It's one of those baffling things to me.
Well, and then it doesn't stay there. It goes on down, and everything becomes incredibly controversial, even if it's kind of not then.
Yeah.
Like, once you get that established, every little thing is weird in some capacity
Yeah.
at that point.
It's okay to have one political belief, but it's completely when you have the other, well, you shouldn't bring politics.
It feels
into
like once
sports.
you take the top off somebody, they then find every little bitty margin and then go there at them at that capacity.
But I mean, look, if you chose to do that as an athlete, that's fine. But if you chose not to, you've been validated, except in our field. I heard a podcaster do it the other day. Well, Kyrie, this, that, and the other. I mean, if you want to get into the anti-Semitism stuff, okay, cool. But if you want to do the vaccination thing, I mean, I think you have to consider the fact that he was right. Or the possibility, I should say, that he was right.
Yeah, I think it's my point. I think it magnifies every take once they decide that's one of the people that is in that crosshair for whatever reason or lack thereof. You ain't got much on tonight. Maybe there's an NBA game of note. What's tonight? What do we got? What are we watching?
I don't even know.
The FCS game, as I mentioned, I do think it's a pretty good game. I mean, all jokes aside, you've got.
I don't even know what the NBA slate is tonight. I watched a lot of NBA yesterday. So
there must not be anything overly big because the Athletics says the two things tonight are Montana State, North Dakota State, and then Panthers Avalanche in the NHL. So it must be a pretty light.
Must be a light. Let's see what the NBA slate is tonight. Today's Monday the 6th.
It is, yes.
Suns at Sixers, Blazers at Pistons, Bucks at Raptors, Magic at Knicks. That's not a bad game. Pacers at Nets, Clippers at Timberwolves. That's a decent game. Mavericks at Grizzlies. That's a really good game. Spurs at Bulls, Heat at Kings.
Okay.
Mavericks Grizzlies. That's not a bad game at all.
They had an interesting poll. We'll close here. They had an interesting poll.
Although, did you see because I know you're kind of a Mavericks fan a little bit.
Yeah.
Luka's in a boot,
Uh-huh.
I don't think he realized he was on camera. The game was ending, and so he was exiting, and he put weight on his foot for just a moment, and it was obvious that, he's a long way from playing.
Oh, really?
Couldn't
do it?
No. I mean, if you told me he's out months, I would buy it. Crazy.
What's the Holmgren update?
It's been 8 weeks and a day. So
what's the theory?
The Thunder people that I listen to think he's coming back late February, early March.
Okay.
That he'll be back on the court. He's off crutches. I think he's starting to
do some type of conditioning.
They have such a lead in the West that there's no reason to rush it.
Mm-hmm. Got an interesting, what I was going to mention, kind of last thing here. The Athletics poll yesterday was asking fans who they would vote for MVP because Lamar and Josh Allen both have historic seasons going in much different ways right now. And I think it's trying, I think there's been a talk a lot about this in the media the last week or so. I think it's trying to give somebody their first one when they don't have one as much as anything else. Josh Allen, a pretty big win here, 57-43 over Jackson so far to date. So
I mean, they both have had MVP seasons. I think Allen's had the better season.
he has more wins. His team has done better, and they need him as much or more, obviously, because of where they are. Jackson, 5,087 total yards, which is good for eighth on the all-time list at this point. He's
Yeah.
already won 2 MVPs.
I mean, he's terrific.
Ran for 800, I think.
I mean, he's a great player. You can make an argument. I mean, there's no wrong vote. But if you can only vote for one, like my ballot would be Allen, Jackson, and then either Barkley or Burrow.
Right.
I mean, Saquon's had a phenomenal year.
Yeah, he's pretty much a lock for the offensive player of the year, or whatever they call it at this point. So we'll see. We'll see how the playoffs map out. Those two teams, 2 and 3. Again, the Bills open against the Broncos, and the Ravens host the Steelers there in the first rounds. We'll take a deeper dive into SEC basketball tomorrow, and then whatever else comes as the day goes on. RebelGrove.com. We've got portal stuff as it hits, recruiting stuff. I wrote some stuff about Jackson Dart this morning. Find all of that at the website. Again, Rivals.com, RebelGrove.com, and we will talk to you tomorrow.